Welcome all our CDL Estonia last cohort graduates. I'm very, very happy that you could join us tonight for a little bit, looking back what we have achieved together and also looking forward in what you have achieved meanwhile and what you think about the future. So let me start from you, Ingvar. Your company is called Vegvisir, and you have been changing a lot of your activities, broadening your product line and doing many different things today. But first, please tell very quickly, I mean, no pitching competition, but very quickly what you are doing. What is your field and what are greatest achievements so far?
Yeah, Vegvisir is Estonian-based company in defense tech. We develop mixed reality-based situational awareness systems for predominantly armored vehicles, unmanned ground systems, and also command posts. And since we graduated the last cohort of CDL, I would list up the following. We have now one new product, Vegvisir Nano, which we launched in September. We have 3 new purchase orders, which we are very happy about, that actually our new product sells. We can list up 2 new countries, Norway and Belgium, which were not on our map before. We have done recently 3 major demos in Singapore, India, and in the UK. Hopefully, they will list up as customers very soon as well. Mm-hmm. We have gone through 5 trade shows over the last 6 months, and 1 major trade show in London, the SCI 2025, which brought us a lot of valuable new contacts and also customers. We have now launched 3 projects in European Defence Fund area, which we won last year. And we are really happy to start working with our European partners in that regard as well. And finally, I would say that we have also launched 2 government grant projects, one in Estonia and one in Croatia. And also those have now started to move. So things go slowly in defense tech. However, we have been actually very busy. So because in order to get anywhere, you need to be present everywhere. You need to work hard on a daily basis with potential customers. And all this has taken a lot of time recently from us.
Thank you, Ingvar. And I'm going now to Misha directly because this slow is probably slow in comparison to innovation in Ukraine. So, Misha, I noticed that your last picture in my LinkedIn network was together with your president, Zelensky. So, I don't know. You don't have to explain what you were doing together with him, but also, you have been also listed among most innovative European new tech companies and achieved a lot since CDL-Estonia graduation. So the same question, what you're doing and what have been the greatest successes so far?
Yeah, Kadri, thank you so much for the invitation and, for running the program. I'm Misha Dominski, CEO, co-founder at Himera. At Himera, we work on scalable, resilient communication systems that work in the harshest electronic warfare, electronic reconnaissance environments, and specifically with a focus on when all the other infrastructure fails. That's where we operate. That's when we operate. While going through the CDL, comparing 2025 to 2024, we multiplied our revenue. We entered additional NATO markets, both in the Nordics and in the wider NATO, NATO regional markets. But we also were able to better focus and better commit to growing in the Ukrainian markets. It's a very mutually beneficial relationship where our successes in Ukraine make our sales and our partnerships outside of Ukraine more efficient bigger, but also us succeeding internationally. I mean, we recently announced that we completed a contract with one of the ministries of defense of the European NATO country, and even that gave us a push in the Ukrainian market. So that has been a very kind of mutually beneficial jobs that we're doing internationally in Ukraine. And I think with the kind of base we've built throughout 2025, very much prone to have even bigger growth, even bigger multiple in 2026 to deliver both our tactical communication systems. That's kind of where our core product line has been for extended period of time, already a couple of years. But we've been more and more growing into what we call a comprehensive resilient network, which combines tactical solutions that we have, kind of soldiers talking to soldiers and passing data in between each other, but also communication system for UGVs, UAVs, sensors, electronic warfare system, everything that unites all the nodes on the battlefield into one comprehensive resilient network. And we were able, partially we were able to use the mentors we were provided at the CDL program to kind of polish and to really much create that very clear vision that is clear for the team, clear for the investors, clear for the customers, and clear for the whole world.
Okay, thank you, Misha. And I let you read as our last person to introduce and last company in this small session, because you have received recently a very high prize from the US military. This was, we were all shocked in Estonia that you even, went to that competition. So please tell us about it, and also talk to us about your venture, what you're doing.
Perfect. So I'm Reg Beer, founder and CEO of 95 North, and we are a company that is taking a national lab invented technology to market, and the technology is centered, as you're aware, around autonomy, AI, and drones to detect buried landmines and hazards, to safely detect it autonomously, remotely, to get people out of harm's way. The competition you're talking about was pretty amazing. So there was a convention in Washington, D.C., and we were invited to apply to compete at it for what's called an X-Tech Disrupt Prize. 95 North was one of 8 companies out of about 350 that pitched, and we were selected. And so we got a non-dilutive cash award, and we got an invitation to go to Hawaii. It was only 3 weeks later, so it was a pretty quick turnaround, but an invitation to go to Hawaii and test our system at the Joint Pacific Multinational Readiness Center. And so that was with the U.S. Army and their allies in the Pacific Theater. And so we were actually training U.S. Army soldiers on our system, and they actually did the operation. We were just there to advise, and it was incredibly. It was a very exciting event. It's the first time we've ever been slotted into a military exercise. Our partners in the U.S. Army were incredibly professional and great to work with. And it was a great experience. I want to get to do more, and we also want to find a way to map that into the next stage of our development, which is actually getting on active procurement contracts.
Yes. So your technology was the youngest one among the 3. I think that's why these prizes are extremely important, and later stages contracts become more important as a prize, right? So, but I would ask you also the following question, because although Ingvar, you have been also studying in Tartu University, and but none of you is actually a business person by education. So you are more engineers with your background, also scientists and also administrators, very different backgrounds. And my next question to you would be, because CDL is a business program, right? It is like something quite different from your earlier education. So maybe I would start asking from Misha that you are more or less a serial founder, I think. So, but your background is engineering. So what did you learn most in CDL? You also already mentioned something, but was it the sequencing of the jobs, about the polishing that you said, or something very, very different?
So one thing is that I technically don't like I did an engineering degree, but I never finished it. So from that perspective, I don't have any background. I was trying to become an engineer, but I got tugged into the entrepreneurial journey early into my kind of university journey. So never had a chance to actually finish it. But yeah, I thought until I got to university, I thought I'm going to be a mechanical engineer. So that's kind of where the, my kind of what I thought and what actually happened really differed. But I think the important thing about CDL is that it's not like any other educational program. It's not even that much of an educational program. It doesn't, I don't think it, there are no lectures. There are no, I mean, a little bit, like just a tiny bit, like a talk, and then you go into actual dialogues. And for me, I think that was the best one, because one of the reasons why I think I didn't proceed to finish with university is that I much more prefer to talk to people and have a dialogue and learn things that way than listening to lectures and kind of that approach, right? For me, it's always, if I have a chance, and I always prefer to just sit for an hour with a person, ask the questions, and get the very specific, tailored answers to what I'm interested in. Then process months of learning and then do the analysis based on that. And so I think CDL just was a very good match for what I consider is the best way for me to learn the information, for me to come up with certain truth, right, that we can use for kind of future growth, that I could use for future growth in Hemera. So that approach with CDL, where you just have the people you talk with, you have all those incredibly smart people, and it's also normal that you only listen to a very small percentage of what they say, right? You have all this input from very smart people, already polished through years and decades of their experience, and you take all this already so well organized pieces of information and knowledge in their heads, and you develop an even better assumption and better knowledge based on that. I think that would work very well for me in CDL, is that you would have that day of conversations, and then for a couple of months you just kind of live with their ideas, with the thoughts that were mentioned during the conversation, with the things that you agreed upon, and then in a couple of months you might have some questions based on that. You'll have new problems in your life, and you come back again and you talk to the same or a bit different people, but also with all those years and decades of experience that you can now use in a very quick, it can be a very quick injection of knowledge and expertise and ideas that you can use for your company. And so from that perspective, I think CDL was a very efficient, it was only a couple of days technically, right? It was a year program. It was only a couple of days of actual time we've dedicated to it. But from that perspective, it was such an efficient program.
Yeah, thank you. So Ingvar, what do you think about that? Do you agree, or you found out something really special? Because you are our local guy here, and this CDL-Estonia mostly happens in Estonia, right?
Yeah, I studied geography actually in Tartu University. But I have been working in national defense here in Estonia since 2002, so more than 20 years now. And that actually is the reason why I've also continued after my government job in business, because once you're in defense, then actually it makes a lot of sense to make usage of that knowledge, because entry to this domain is actually not that easy, I would say. But what I would bring out from CDL is, I agree very much what Misha said. I would also add that you work with all kinds of wonderful mentors, like almost 8 months, or how long was the program, and basically they are all yours, in terms that you can ask anything, business related, of course. But that would really help you to focus on most burning issues or the weakest areas, which are probably not your strongest skills. So that helps a lot to develop you much faster. For me personally, also another topic was very interesting because CDL brings so many investors all together from all over places in the world. Then that helped me to understand much better how investors think. And if you're a startup person, you run your own startup, then understanding how the other person on the other end of the call sees you and how they approach companies or startups, what they are looking at, or how do they try to find the best matches for themselves. That helps a lot actually to understand and also to prepare better for your next investor call. So I would say that, yeah, altogether, very, very well organized the program, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Ingvar. Rich, what about you? Because you actually flew in every time to Estonia, right? Or one time to Stockholm as well, right? Long journey.
So, well, definitely for me, the international flavor obviously was probably much more unique from other participants. But I found that a huge plus to the program. It really opened up connections into the European market and the Baltics, and then, even getting over to Stockholm. It really provided some exposure. And as 95 North moves from U.S. military focused to foreign military sales, we really, I'm sure, are going to benefit from not just people that we met through the program, but sort of the focus, sort of some of the cultural elements, and just a better understanding of the needs of and the challenges and the concerns of folks in that area. So I think the international exposure was priceless. I also would echo that the mentors were amazing. I would frequently be following up on something that they'd requested, and as in a startup, you're used to just working all the time, basically. But it would strike me how the mentors were doing this pro bono and leaning in, and in your mind you're like, and they do this year after year, and they do this for company after company. So I'd have to say that the mentors deserve an award for selflessness in the support that they provide. And then the other thing was, really, you made the point of, we all have these technical non-business backgrounds. And I'd have to say that I did not go into this program with an MBA, right? And the challenge that we constantly had every time there was a meeting, to hone in on customer validation and how we were going to communicate in the metrics of business and our key performance indicators. Like, I think it was a very good and helpful construct. Like other folks have mentioned, like, I think the kind of people who are attracted to startups don't necessarily want to go to school for 3 years to learn something. We want to just jump right in and learn it as we go. And business side of it is kind of, it's kind of what we do. We've already spent time in university learning our tech trades. We're ready to go, just jump in. And the ecosystem around CDL really pairs top-notch business people, finance people, marketing people, and really helps you learn their language.
Yeah. And maybe you also received a kind of flavor of some military training, because I remember that you have at least one time you had three mentors, all with military backgrounds, and you had weekly meetings, which is unusual for CDL. So the guy was
I still meet with them. I still meet with them. Not some more than others, but you know, I have I bonds were formed during CDL that I think, you know, it will just, you know, far, you know, just go move into the future. We met great folks in that program, and they're, you know, they're part of the team in some way or another. So it was a great
yeah.
experience.
Thanks, Rich. And my last question to you is that we are having the Delta Trends Day focused on hybrid security learning and also touch upon the topics of how to advance innovation in defense field, which originally has not been so innovative. And you as the people working very heavily in the core part of this problem, what would you suggest? What to do, how to make this field more innovative and developing faster. So, Reg, maybe you can start with that.
Absolutely. This is, you know, we live on the razor's edge of this here in the US right now. The changes that the US defense establishment is going through are incredibly important to see through completion. Our acquisition reform is something that we are watching extremely closely. I can tell you that the people in the United States military establishment absolutely want to become more agile and more efficient, and they know that they absolutely have to for the future landscape that they have to operate in. And and um, and so that acquisition reform is, you know, that cake is baking right now, right? We don't know how it's going to taste when it comes out of the oven, but
Mhm.
it is, you know, already going ballistic, as they say. It's already underway. I think any improvement is better than no improvement because the environment companies found, you know, you could just look at the landscape over the last 20 years. Ever since, you know, the late 1980s, there's been such a massive consolidation into massive prime contractors. It's really stifled innovation here. Um, and so I think it's a very necessary change, but we are leaning in. The whole program I told you about that we tested in Hawaii under, you know, that is one way the U.S. military is already trying to get startups and small companies, you know, re-engaged. So that you know, the short answer is it's a work in progress, but anything they do to break down those barriers and accelerate small businesses into that space will
Mhm.
be helpful. The other point I would make, and I see this more in the CDL sort of environment outside of the U.S. defense market, is I think that when I when I say you guys, so the Baltics, the Nordics, the countries that are really heavily represented at CDL, I think the public-private partnerships that I saw there and the way investors are leaning in with your startups and the way your government representatives are attending and enabling and opening doors. I think that's a nugget of gold that you guys have that you should just, you know, nurture and be very proud of. And that is something that I think would be helpful here. Um, but I'd have to say that I really saw it in full bloom in Estonia, and I think that's a great advantage and maybe capability of your whole ecosystem moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Rich. And I must go to Misha now because Misha, although Rich said to Estonian ecosystem prices, but we must be desperately slow for you because you are living many lives in every hour with such a speed. So what do you think? What can we do to make ourselves more innovative and fast?
Um, I think, I mean, there's always one life hack, but nobody wants that one, right? It's have a war at your doorstep, which, you know, that's the biggest driver always. But outside of that is, you know, we've already through pain and suffering over the last, soon 4 years, we've built a lot of changes in Ukrainian, the procurement process, the competition process, the distribution of the budget process, like that we changed in Ukraine that already showed themselves as the one that are efficient. I think just, not if not duplicate, very much look closely and see how to use those. But I think one of the biggest drivers is that there are already companies in Ukraine, operating in Ukraine for Ukraine, and operating out of Ukraine for the international customers already, that we have that internal clock that is just much quicker because we have that drive from the customers and operators here in Ukraine, and we bring the same cycles, the same processes for our international customers. And so that's that competition on itself, that's what's going to be for sure driving the innovation cycles in European, NATO-wide, and just globally innovation cycles in the defense companies. Because when you have somebody like a Ukrainian company competing against a non-Ukrainian company, you need to get on the level of the innovation cycle and the the ability to build and try and break and deploy much quicker than you used to, because in the time you do one cycle in a couple of years, company from Ukraine will do 10, 20, certain number of those cycles, and break things and learn things and replace things and so on. And I think it's not, there's not like a one solution and no one answer to the question of what is the way. I think we're already seeing a lot of changes that wouldn't happen if not for Ukraine to be able to resist the Russian war. And the changes we already done, because you can see a lot of things that change, that are happening in the US, happening around Europe, are based on what they're seeing in Ukraine. They're not standalone and happening in vacuum. They're happening because of what's already been happening in Ukraine. They're not copypast, right? But they are very much, how to say it correctly, they're very much inspired, right, by what we have here. And many of the things are very true. And I think the biggest one we see, at least in Ukraine, is that you give much more budgets to local decision makers. And that's, you give platoon level commanders, battalion level commanders, brigade level commanders make and distribute the budgets that are given to them because they need them. And what allows you to do is be more flexible. It allows decentralized procurement to look at what is already being used and learn on that, and it allows much smaller companies to get first revenues. Because if you are a small company, you try to go to the Ministry of Defense Procurement Office, it may take you years to get the first money. But if you have a platoon or battalion commander who has a certain amount of budget, you can come to them and say, I have this interesting thing, let's get a first product into the hands of your operators. You get the revenue, you get the ability to iterate, you get the ability to showcase what you're building is useful, and you can go through those layers of procurements without the need of millions of already being invested, by just giving it to the right decision makers that you already have. So that's basically would be my main approach to the
Yeah, thank you. And Ingvar, you are the last one. Being here in Estonia, what would you suggest?
Yeah, defense is mostly business to government business. Means that it needs to tango, government and businesses. Of course, it's very difficult to influence governments from defense industry, but we need to keep pushing. I think what happens in Ukraine predominantly shows us the way. Of course, we would like to have changes here in Estonia also much quicker than they actually are, but I would say that in overall terms, definitely we move in a positive direction. So what remains on the business side is that if we talk about innovation in defense, then if you really think of something new, which hasn't been used before, or you really do it in a completely different way than before, then most critical thing here is always to know that you have an actual problem that you are solving, because if you don't have that problem, then you have a problem because your end customer will not definitely be happy about your results, and you waste a lot of resources, time, energy, money, and people. So that means that you need to communicate with end users as often as possible, to go to trade shows, to demos, to military exercises, to conferences, etc. The more often you meet with them, the more likely it is that your innovation actually gets on a market and gets a welcome reception there. So I think that's probably the most important.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for coming. This was wonderful to see you once more, because we have now we saw Ingvar just in May, but with you guys, yeah, we haven't met. So much success for you all. And I have a very final question for which I would like you to switch on your mics, and I would like to have one word for the answer only. Are you guys competitors?
Do you mean with each other?
Yes.
No.
No.
Definitely not.
Okay, then it's a good chance for this industry to grow still, right? So thank you all for coming, and welcome you back in Estonia whenever you can, Reg and Misha, and come to Tartu, Ingvar, and see you in next session.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.